Hello, this video is to help you think about how to deal with any missing data you've got in your data set. I'm going to carry on with the same data set we were looking at on Monday. Let me just share my screen. Here we are, getting pretty familiar with this data set now. So the first thing to check is you may have some lines in your data that are just people who have opened up your survey and then closed it again without answering any questions. If you've got any people who have done that, you will have some lines of data with just dots all the way through them. I haven't got an example in this data set here. I wonder if I can create one. Hang on, just try. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so you'll have a line just with dots all the way through like that, and you can see them when you scroll along. They've got no data in them. When they're peppered throughout the data set, they can be a little bit difficult to spot, although if you look down the first column, you can kind of see that you haven't got anything there and then kind of work across from that point. One way of sort of bunching them all together is to use the sort command. So if you click on, what did I click on then? Whoops. Data and then sort. And then you can sort by the first variable in your data set. Mine's question 3. How old are you? So let's put that one in. You can choose to sort by ascending or descending. It doesn't matter. It'll just put them all at the top or the bottom. So let's go OK. And then for that particular, at least for question 3 anyway, anyone who's got a blank response on that question we put at the top or the bottom if you choose the other option. And then at least for that question, you've got a blank, and then you can look across from that point of view. So they should put them all in one place. And then all you need to do is select the rows like that with any blank data in them, and then right click and clear, and that gets rid of them. So it's perfectly fine to do that. They're not participants because they haven't participated in your study at all. So that's the first thing that I would do. And then you may have some data that from participants who have only answered your demographic questions. So in this particular data set, we've got age here, gender, whether your gender is the same as assigned at birth, ethnicity, and then what's this one? Oh yeah, whether you're in higher education. So those first few variables there are usually just used to describe your sample, sometimes included in the analysis, but for most people that won't be just those things alone. You will have variables and other data that you're going to be using to answer your research questions. So if someone's only answered the demographics questions, they're not particularly useful to you, but you do need to report in your report whether you have any people like that. So in our particular data set, we've got a couple of people like that. You can see at the top here. So helpfully, they're at the top for us, but you may not find that. You might find that you've got them mixed throughout. And in fact, you can see for this study here, we've got those two at the top that have just given demographics data. We've also got another one here, number 7. So what do we do with those people? Well, first of all, let's sort the data again to see if we can put people together that only answer the demographics questions. It's not perfectly fail-safe, but it does help. So data, sort, and then we'll sort by, this time, the first variable that's not a demographics one, which is that one. And you can see we've put them at the top again. So we've got these 3 people here that have only provided demographics data. So in your report, I would say, this was my report for this data, I'd say 3 of the 15 people only provided demographics data and were excluded from the analysis. And then I would delete those people, and perhaps make a copy of this data set first, just by coming out of here, making a copy, and then coming back in and deleting these 3 cases, just so you've got a version of the original data before you mess around with it. Let's imagine we've done that, and then we're going to right click and clear those 3 people away. So you've already noted how many people you've deleted like that. You're going to write it in your report. And now you're left with these 12 people that you've got demographics data for and at least some data on your other variables. Now, if you've got a variable that's a single variable and you're not creating a composite variable from it, then you just leave it be. So let's imagine question 14 here measures, let's say, social norms. We haven't asked that same, haven't asked a number of questions to create our social norms variable. It's just a single question. Then, yeah, don't do anything with it. You can see on here, I've got 3 people with little dots who haven't answered that question. You don't need to worry about that. SPSS does something called deleting cases pairwise, which means that you just carry on the analysis as normal, and it just won't include in the analysis any single case or participant that didn't give you data on one of the variables included in the analysis. So let's say you're running a correlation between social norms and let's say vaping. Then even if a participant is given, let's say all your participants have provided data on how often they vape, but 3 of your participants haven't answered this social norms question, then those 3 people, even though they've got data, you've got data on vaping, they won't be included in analysis because there's no data on them for social norms. So SPSS just does that for you, so you don't need to worry about it. When you run the analysis, there'll be a box of descriptive statistics right at the top just to tell you how many individuals were included in the analysis, and you can report that. So you can say, in this case, 9 participants were included in the correlation analysis, and then you can give your test statistic. But the same thing applies to the other types of analysis you'll do, multiple regression, ANOVA, etc. It will just do the same thing. So you don't need to worry about anyone like that. Where you do need to worry, well, not worry, but do something about it, is when you've got any variables that you're going to use to compute a new composite variable. And we went over how to do that in the session on Monday, and we just simply added up the responses, didn't we? From, in our case, it was these 3 questions here, which we were using to measure self-efficacy for holding the plank. And we added 3 scores together. So imagine you've got a participant who has very high self-efficacy for the plank, and they've given a score of 5 every time. So their total score would be 15. Imagine another participant who also has strong self-efficacy and has answered 5 for 2 questions, but they've accidentally missed out the 3rd one. Now, if we added up their score, that person would have a score of 10, which actually doesn't reflect their self-efficacy. They've just missed out. We've basically included their score for the one they've missed out, but it's been included as a 0, hasn't it? Because there's no response there. So that would sort of bias your results. So we need to do something about that. And I hadn't thought to say anything about this in the session on Monday. What you need to do to deal with this, right? If you remember, we recoded some of our variables. We recoded Q14. That was our example of where we've got a problem with the way that Qualtrics had coded the responses given to a particular question. In our case, it was coded accidentally 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, wasn't it? Instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we'd recoded that. So at this point in your analysis, go ahead and do that kind of recoding. Also go ahead and do the recoding where you've got variables that you're going to use to create a composite variable, and some of them are framed in the wrong direction, and you want to recode those. So we've done that for our variables in this set, and it was question 15 and 44 that were framed the wrong way around, so we'd recoded them. So at this point, also go ahead and do that. And here we are, we've got those 3 variables recoded here. You can see when someone hasn't answered a a particular question on your particular variable and you've got a missing score in your column here, it's also been transferred across and you've got a missing one in your recode. So if it's missing in your original variable, it'll become missing in your recoded one, which is exactly what we want. We don't want it to make up a score for them. It just makes it missing stuff. So that's fine. So the way that I showed you at this point was to compute your new variable. And if you remember, we went ahead and we did, oops, oh, don't, what have you done? Just wait a second. I don't know what I've pressed. It made it just go ahead and do that. This doesn't look very good. I'm just going to close it down. Hold on, sorry about this. Hang on a minute. I just force a close of SPSS. It's obviously I've obviously done something it doesn't like. Right, sorry. So we got rid of those couple of cases there. Let's get rid of that again. Right, so we're back where we were. So yes, I was just saying, so we had previously done our compute. So we clicked on transform, compute, and we'd added our question 15 recode to our 61, which was okay. We didn't need to recode that one. And then our 44 recoded. And we'd called it self-efficacy recode, I think. Okay, so that's what we've done in the session. So what we need to do is to, before we go through that process, we need to deal with these missing cases in here so that when we add up the scores, the people with missing values actually got a score to add so that we don't make their score too low for them. Right, and what we need to do is impute some means, which is not as difficult as it might sound. Basically, it's just anyone who's got a missing cell, we give them the mean of everyone else in that in the study, and that's easy to do. So for our sample, let's find what the mean would be. So we need to do it for question 15 and 44. So if we go to Analyze, Descriptive Statistics and Descriptives, question 15 and 44, bring those across. Let me say OK. And here are our means. We've got 4.55 and 3.1. So, right, let's do recode again. We're getting familiar with this now. Transform again, we'll recode into a different variable so we keep our original. And we're going to recode our recode. So get our question 15. And we're going to call it this time Q15 recode, and I'm now going to add on impute. So we know for this particular variable we recoded it and we've imputed a mean. In the old and new values, we're going to say if it's a system missing, that means a missing empty cell, we're going to put in, is it 3.55? No, 4.55. Okay, and we add that into our box, and then we say all other values, copy, put the same as they were before. And then we say, okay. And then you will see, there we go. We've now got a column full of data. And the ones that were empty, so that was here, participant 2, or Q14, oh no, not that one, a Q15 was blank, and they've now got the mean of 4.55. And this participant number 8 also had a blank cell, and they've now got the same 4.55 there. So we do the same principle with question 44. Change that. I don't need to go into old and new values. Well, I'll just show you, but they're the same as before. The same rules are in there as before. So we don't have to put that in again, and we just say, okay. Oh, actually, that's a complete lie. We do need to go into there because the mean is different. The mean for Q44 is 3.1. Let's delete that. So that is actually 3.1. We click on change rather than add. System missing is 1, everything else copy, continue, okay. And now, so Q44, we had one person with missing data, that was number 8, and you can now see they've got a mean, an imputed mean of 3.1. So now for our all our columns that we want to add our data up in, assuming actually the Q16 is also, yeah, we're going to add the Q16 one up. That's part of our group we're going to use to create a composite variable. They've all got data in there. We could also, if it didn't, we could just recode Q16. So that also had an imputed mean for anyone who had a missing value. So let's now do the thing that we did before to create our new variable. All variables have got full data in them. And this time we're going to use our new recoded and imputed variable plus 16, which is fine. Didn't need recoding to reframe it and has full data, so it doesn't need imputing. Leave it as it is. Add in our 44. And then this is the one we're going to call SE composite. There we go. So now, there we are. That is a better composite variable now because we haven't got any reflection of total self-efficacy scores that are made up from anyone who didn't have a value in a cell, which yeah, would have sort of skewed the findings because, well, as I've been into already at the start of the video, if they had an empty cell, then when you total up the scores, that counts as 0 for them, and it will sort of deflate the value it should have been for them. So I hope that is helpful. So in terms of your report, as I said before, just get rid of anyone who's got empty cells altogether. Just you don't even report that they're not actually participants. Report if you do delete anyone's data because they only provided you with demographics data, then just say how many people you deleted, and then say therefore included in the analysis were, and then state the number of participants. Use that to produce your descriptive statistics for your report. If you do need to impute any means, then just say that you imputed means for any variables where there was missing data and you're using those variables to create a composite measure. And then just go ahead and do your analysis. And if your analysis involves other variables that you didn't use to create composite measures, they were a single variable with yeah, that you're just a single variable used for that particular variable in your analysis, then if there's any empty data in that cell, it doesn't matter because SPSS won't include them in the analysis. So yeah, and I just make sure that for each of the analyses that you do, you report the exact number of participants included in the analysis, because if you do have any variables with empty cells in them, then it means that that participant won't be included, and you just need to report that it's a slightly lower number included in that particular one. So I hope that's helpful. Different researchers handle missing data in different ways. I suppose it's just, this is not for you to put in your reports, but it's just out of interest, really. Different researchers have different ways of dealing with missing data. There's no particular wrong way or right way of doing it. If you're going to be really thorough, you would try lots of different ways of handling missing data, and you would report all of those different ones in your appendix of your paper that you are writing. It's called a multiverse approach, and you would select the one that you felt best represented your data, but make the readers aware that your findings might have changed slightly depending on the approach that you took. But that's way above the level you're working at. I suggest you just deal with missing data in the way that I've suggested, being transparent in your reports, and yeah, you won't have any problems then. As always, let me know if you've got any questions. Happy to help, and I hope that was useful. Bye.